Good evening and welcome to Lead Story Prime. I'm Tyrone Reed. Tonight we turn our attention to one of the Caribbean's most important judicial institutions. The Caribbean Court of Justice is under scrutiny following reports of internal tensions at the regional court, including allegations of division among judges and what has been described as a toxic environment. The allegations have not been proven, and the CCJ has defended its independence, impartiality, and integrity. But the controversy is raising some very serious questions. How should a regional court respond when its own internal operations come under public scrutiny? What does this mean for confidence in the CCJ? And perhaps most importantly, for us in Jamaica at least, does this change the conversation about whether the CCJ should replace the Privy Council as our apex court? Tonight, we're going to have that conversation from three different perspectives. Political commentators Dr. Nadine Spence and Lloyd B. Smith will help us examine the political and public confidence questions, and senior defense attorney Bert Samuels will help us understand the legal issues surrounding this controversy. I'm Tyrone Reed, and this is Lead Story Prime. Thanks for staying with us. The reports that have put the CCJ under the microscope stem from claims of internal disagreement at the regional court. The Gleaner reports that emails allegedly show tensions among judges and concerns about the working environment. Of course, that initial report came out of the Twin Island Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Now, the issue has sparked quite a bit of controversy, and of course, there has been commentary about the issue. Yes, the Gleaner says it has not seen the emails and claims have not been established as a fact. Yes, the CCJ, for its part, has reaffirmed its commitment to independence, impartiality, and integrity. So let's start right there. We have joining us, firstly, we will be talking with Bert Samuels. Yes, he's an attorney at law, defense counsel, senior defense counsel. He joins us via Zoom. Top of the evening to you, Bert Samuels. Welcome to Lead Story Prime. It seems you're muted there, counsel.
Yes. What's the question? I didn't get it.
Yes. Let's see. You called a media conference to address this issue, Bert Samuels. Why did you feel the need to do that? For you, this is a critical issue at a critical time, isn't it?
Yes, certainly. I mean, the colonial history, where the King of England's court is the Privy Council, and our move towards being a republic makes it totally inconsistent for us to retain a colonial court. One, two, the law school is now 50 years old, and it has turned out jurists, one of which was my classmate, a Guyanese, who was a CCJ judge. So I think that if we can field a successful West Indies University of the West Indies, a successful cricket team who has lost some of its glory in recent times, we have the intellect, the responsibility, the ability to chart our own course. Unless we reject Marcus Garvey, our first national heroes, that we should not be afraid to rule ourselves. That's the problem I'm having with the pro-Privy Council lobbies. Where is their self-respect? Where is their belief in self? And aren't we now an independent nation? If you want to go republic, you can't take with it the Privy Council. There's a gross contradiction.
A contradiction that you'd say the Twin Island Republic of Trinidad and Tobago are caught in?
Yeah, well, they have seen to a hybrid situation. I don't think that republicanism can be given in part. It must be in whole. You can't be a part republic. Can you imagine America giving its final court of appeal to be in England after a successful war against driving the English out? Can you imagine the British allowing a Nigerian court to be their final court of appeal? Only us, because of our color, because of our history, seem to think that we can, as it were, farm out and export justice to a former colonial power. Not at all for me. I'm a Pan-Africanist, and I believe in the dignity, respect of the black mind and the nation of 98% African Jamaicans, and my respect for Marcus Garvey. It's a hypocrisy to celebrate Garvey and retain the Privy Council.
And certainly, Sir Bert Samuels, Senior Counsel, there are many people who support this view that you are espousing, but they are saying the final appellate court, the CCJ, isn't the only option. We could start our own final appellate court right here in Jamaica. And in fact, they might argue that what is transpiring at the CCJ lends support to that argument.
Well, you know, it's not every time that the storm hits us that we should plan around the storm. We should plan around development. And therefore, the storm in the teacup at the moment, which is a leak of emails which needs an investigation. You recall when that case was being tried to reverse Roe versus Wade in the United States 4 years ago. There was a leak of the judgment, and there was a criminal investigation to find out who did it. This was not meant for public fodder. It was a disagreement between persons which should have been resolved internally, and that is why I embrace Member of Parliament Malawi Fort, a former Attorney General, when she said the leak itself is more egregious than the substance of the complaint. So we should call a spade a spade. And therefore, if you're saying that Jamaica should have its own final court of appeal, let's debate that. But my view is the collective wisdom of the entire Caribbean, the law of the greater numbers, the greater ability to feel the intellect in the entire Caribbean, must be a better proposal than a Jamaican court. Listen to me, the economies of scale suggest that if we all support this court, as was the Federation, which would have made us much better off today when the Federation failed, it is because we were so nationalistic that we were blinded to the reality of history and economics.
Bert Samuels, so you are saying let's debate the idea of either the CCJ or a final appellate court right here in Jamaica. You're saying that's an argument you're prepared to be detained by, but not you won't be detained by having this branch of or government, the judiciary, terminating in some foreign country. You don't think that should be allowed at all? It's not.
Can't be.
Right.
It can't. How strong would it be? Would there have been a Jamaican cricket team? How recognized would there be a Jamaican university versus a West Indian university versus a West Indian cricket team? I think the collective talent of the Caribbean people who share a common history. Don't forget that we were all former colonies of the British. So we share a common thing. We need to go to each other's countries with passport. The Ghanaians don't want us to come there with any passports.
But we can't seem to achieve that, Bert Samuels. The CSME has been, for many, a piped dream. It's not really come to fruition. Many people believe CARICOM is a failed project because of the failure to launch of many of these grand ideas that we've bandied about for so many years, since the signing of the Treaty of Chaguaramas. How do you respond to that, though? This is not a reasonable argument that we've not even achieved the cohesion in the Caribbean that we should.
Why are we looking at that? Why don't we look at the University of the West Indies? You know, why isn't that a success? The University of the West Indies ranks amongst the first 3.5% of universities worldwide. And that is academia. That is brains. A court requires brains. So we know that we have the intellect. We know that we have the students. And I know, as I said, my classmate was a CCJ judge. You know, so that I'm proud. He was Guyanese, and I was so proud of that. Remember when Lord Diplock came here from the Privy Council, he said that our lawyers were better trained than English lawyers. Have we forgotten that? When Phillips, the head of the Supreme Court in England, the highest judicial court, said that we should leave the Privy Council and have our domestic courts, he said this in 2009. Where's our self-respect and our self-esteem for a British judge to be telling us to pack your bags and go?
Yeah, I do recall that. And actually, Bert Sam was there pointing to a success story, the University of the West Indies. I think we're being...
My university, yes.
I think we're being joined by Lloyd B. Smith. It's Lloyd B. Smith who is joining the conversation. Lloyd B. Smith, are you there?
Yes, I'm very much here. Good evening to you and to Bert as well.
And this is not a swipe at learned counsel Bert Samuels, but I'm really hearing this from attorneys that the leak is more egregious than the leak of the emails than the substance that it addresses. You know, I'm happy to be talking to a noted journalist who perhaps would support the notion of a leak. So let me ask you, the leak more important than the substantive issues addressed in those emails, or vice versa? How do you see it?
Oh, well, I don't know. I think the leak could turn out to be propitious in the sense that it has put the CCJ right into our thought process. It has been on the periphery for quite a while, except for when the People's National Party brings it to the fore in terms of its own stance on constitutional reform. I wouldn't necessarily think it was egregious. I think that journalists have a role to play as well as gatekeepers. And the fact that it was leaked, one assumes that whoever leaked it may well have had good intentions, although we know that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. But clearly, it came about because there was some amount of discontent within the ranks of the jurists. But as I said, my view is that this could turn out to be propitious in that it now brings back this thing into full debate, which is what we want, to really hear this issue in greater detail. But I would also want to suggest that we should not get too carried away in terms of what has been revealed. Because let's face it, there's always some amount of dissonance in any family, in any organization, in any setup, you know. And the fact that we have seen this particular friction developing between the leader of the court, so to speak, with his colleagues, is something that may turn out to be a healthy controversy in that it, in the long run, will make the court more responsive as well as responsible.
Indeed. We are talking with Bert Samuels, attorney at law, noted attorney at law, and of course Lloyd B. Smith, noted journalist and former Speaker of the House, Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives. When we come back, we'll be joined by Dr. Nadine Spence as well to lend her views as to what should we make of the CCJ and this controversy that now surrounds the regional court. This is Lead Story Prime. We'll take the break right here and come back with more.
your memories fresh.
I'm me the stylist, no scam and I style me.
From the market to the farm to the office, money talk is everywhere. But are you making sense or nonsense? The Bank of Jamaica brings you common sense with BOJ. Real stories, real laughs, and real lessons to help you protect, grow, and manage your money. Mattress savings.
At least my mattress, no charge me to sleep on it.
Partner plan.
Remember last year we needed our payouts early? But Miss Pam gave it to her cousin first.
Or a sketchy loan flyer.
Electrifying deals.
See why making the right financial choices is pure common sense. Brought to you by Bank of Jamaica, empowering everyday Jamaicans one episode at a time.
Grandpa, it's 2026. You can't keep hiding all your money in every single pocket forever.
Welcome back. Thanks so much for sticking and staying with us right here inside Lead Story Prime. We are drilling down into and unpacking this leaked email scandal rocking the Caribbean Court of Justice. And in particular, the importance of this issue for Jamaica is that Jamaica is again at a time where we're discussing what should be the country's final appellate court, the apex court, where this branch of government terminates. And of course, we have with us senior counsel attorney at law, Bert Samuels. Also with us, former Speaker of the House of Representatives and noted journalist Lloyd B. Smith. And we're being joined now by public commentator Dr. Nadine Spence. And I'd love to go to Dr. Spence. You heard there from Bert Samuels. He points to the University of the West Indies as being one of the success stories of regional integration, of this notion of one Caribbean, CARICOM, and he's saying we should look to the successes and not necessarily focus on where we've gone wrong. But where do you see this controversy, Dr. Spence? Do you think the leak of the emails is more egregious than the substance of the leak? What say you?
Certainly the leak is more egregious. I think since the CCJ has been doing its work, the quality of the judgments that have been produced from the court, the reasoning, the ways in which it leans into a unique Caribbean understanding of the law, or the ways in which it seeks to use Caribbean history. And I'm just studying law and appreciating and understanding the CCJ and recognize that this is an institution that is of value to Caribbean people, and that it is an institution that if we give ourselves the opportunity to investigate adequately, we will be proud of. I think this is a distraction. It's a distraction, and it is unfortunate in Jamaica that we have politicized and put this across the two-party divide. And furthermore, the person who people are having a problem with in this scenario is a Jamaican. So I don't think Jamaicans should be out there condemning the court when the person at the center of the controversy is a Jamaican. But beyond that, I think it's unfortunate that we have used our party divide to get us into this position where it would appear that JLP is saying no to the courts and PNP is saying yes to the courts. Unfortunately, when that happens, then Jamaicans are not going to be able to, in a value-free kind of way, look at the court and its judgment, look at its work, look at the body of work that it has established, and use that to judge the quality of the CCJ. And I agree with Bert, no self-respecting people having knowledge of slavery, colonialism, imperialism, and all of the wickedness that has been meted out to black people should at this time be saying that our only option or our better option is the Privy Council. It just means that we don't have no self-respect. And I cringe every time I hear people try to justify Jamaica remaining at the seat, at the Privy Council. I cringe, and I just feel so very sad for us as a people that we have not yet managed excavate ourselves from the wickedness of British colonialism, that we still feel like we are self-respecting people when we make those statements.
Am I hearing from you, Dr. Spence, that your support seems to be to Jamaica acceding to the appellate jurisdiction of the CCJ?
Of course, I'm a graduate of the University of the West Indies. This is where I am now as you're talking to me.
I'm sure Bert Samuels would.
I am fully converted to the idea of regionalism and Caribbean integration. And you're talking to me now from you. I live and work here.
I'm certain Bert Samuels will support that. And I want to go back to Bert Samuels. That notion, Bert Samuels, as a journalist, I have to push back on that notion that the leak itself is more egregious than, of course, the substance of the leak. For example, Bert Samuels, the allegations that have been made out speak to authoritarian or dictatorial management, interference, alleged interference with judicial decision-making, panel selection manipulation. Those are serious allegations, Bert Samuels. How can that be viewed as being lesser than the leak itself?
All right, because you see, if you overhear your neighbors, married people, in a quarrel, which was not your business, and judge the marriage by that one night of quarrel, you could wreck a marriage which would have rehabilitated itself on its own. So it wasn't meant for public fodder, and that is why I lean into Malibu Fort Member of Parliament, former Attorney General, who said, and she is robust, she's been in the cabinet, she's been in the legal profession, she's been a judge of the parish court. She knows the nuances that attends upon us when it comes to decision-making and group dynamics. It will always happen. And I want to tell your listeners that Transparency International did a survey of how the British people look at their judges in terms of integrity and honesty. And they compared it with Jamaica. And the Jamaican people have more regard for their judges than the British people do. But colonialism makes us feel that anything British is good and that they're better and greater intellect than us. Lawyers arguing before the Privy Council when patois is being spoken in a case and the transcript has patois in it. The lawyers have to be telling the judges in the Privy Council what "may I go down the road" means. And me and my daughter did I go out the night. They think it's your daughter. So why are we putting ourselves through all of this? Is it that we don't think that we're bright enough to be judges? So why don't we abolish the Jamaican Court of Appeal and just send everything, transport everything to England? Because do you know what is the problem? Every morning we go to court and say, "God save the king." Every morning in Jamaica we go there and say, "God save the king." So we have been duped and have been brainwashed to think that justice can only come through King Charles. That's what has happened to us. We're sick in the head from brainwashing.
Is that you I'm hearing there, former Speaker of the House? I hear you coming in on that point there, Lloyd B. Smith. They do pray for the peace of Britain's monarch before Parliament begins.
Yes, and that is an anachronism that needs to be expunged with this much alacrity, I dare say. And I must say that I am tremendously excited with Bert's and with Dr. Spence's perspective, because we are just coming out of celebrating emancipation and independence. And it is perhaps terribly ironic that we are still here discussing Jamaica's involvement with His Majesty's Privy Council. So clearly we need to move away from that. And the problem, of course, is that unfortunately it has become a political football. And I would want to suggest very strongly that the leader of the opposition needs to become more proactive and to take the fight to the Prime Minister, not fight in a combative sense, But as we have observed and heard, there has been this standoff between the Prime Minister and the Leader of Opposition. And I think the ball is now in Mr. Golding's court to make the next move to see how best there can be a meaningful consultation taking place. Clearly, at this point in time, it would be perhaps not the wisest thing to go to a referendum on the matter, because clearly we are already in a very divided climate, and as Dr. Spence pointed out, the unfortunate thing is that those who support the Privy Council are supposed to be JLP supporters, and those who support the CCJ. And it's not, I know persons who are JLP quietly who support the CCJ. You know, so
but the operative word there, Lloyd B. Smith, is quietly, and that shouldn't be the case, should it? The operative word there is quietly, if you're a JLP, yes. And that shouldn't be the case, should it?
No, but you know what the consequences can be if you noisily state your case in this very volatile environment of our inversion of dreams.
You might be let out to pasture.
Yes.
We are up on a break. We have with us a riveting conversation, robust conversation we're having here on Lead Story Prime. We're looking at the critical issue of these leaked emails rocking the CCJ. Serious allegations made out, but of course we must say that the CCJ has responded, and the CCJ has basically defended the integrity of the judges and says, look, this thing should not be taken out of context. We'll take the break right here and come back with more thoughts.
In need of a loan? AIM Financial is the place to go. We have loans from $20,000 to $3.3 million. Get a loan to pay school or college tuition, medical expenses, bills, fix up your house, buy furniture and appliances, repair or buy a car. And when you're done, take a vacation loan. AIM has a loan for any purpose. Call AIM today. You won't find a better deal elsewhere. Guaranteed.
Let's delve deep into the issues. We'll take you beneath the surface.
Greetings and salutations. My name is Orville Higgins, and it's another edition of Fan Central.
Talking to the people at the heart of the top sporting stories. Hear from your favorite sportsmen and women and the administrators who work tirelessly to make it all happen. It's live sports talk.
I've written an entire article.
Yes.
Looking at all the major issues every Tuesday at 9 p.m. It's Fan Central.
Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 a.m., 1:30 p.m., and 10 p.m. on CVM TV.
Start your journey with a Jane Bank Small Business Loan, with small business loans with as little as $10,000 and up to $4 million.
The time is 8:30.
Thanks so very much for sticking and staying with us right here inside Lead Story Prime. We have an eminent panel here sharing their thoughts. Senior Attorney at Law Bert Samuels, public commentator Dr. Nadine Spence, and former Speaker of the House of Representatives and noted journalist, that's former Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Lloyd B. Smith. Before we went to, while we were in the break there, Bert Samuels, you did indicate that you wanted to come in on one of the points that we were discussing.
That the memoirs of Peter Millett, a former judge of the Privy Council, in that memoir, he describes the president wielding his influence on the panel. In fact, he fixed a panel, made sure that he had judges who would give a certain decision. And that was in the Privy Council itself. And that he would try to influence persons in their judgment. In fact, one of the instances he gave where he said to a judge, basically, although the law is directing you in this direction, the life of a human being is more important than the paper. So I brought that out to show that the rigorous differences and debates and influences and pressures brought by the president on its members in the Privy Council happens. And I'm not surprised. Where you put human beings together, a leader will emerge and people become very, very forceful and people's leadership style changes. There are some people who lead from behind. There are some people who lead with a soft voice. There are others who lead with that. And even in our own cabinet, persons have resigned from the cabinet because of their differences of opinion. And people have crossed the floor in our parliament. So it is not without human experience that there will be differences and contentions and dissent. That's the robust nature of any intellectual group. Thank you.
I get your support for the CCJ, and it's reasonable, Bert Samuels. But what I would ask of you is, and there are others, if not necessarily you, because of their support for the CCJ and because it's become such a political football, that those who support the CCJ would make light of this leak, and those who don't support the CCJ might seem to make more out of it than they need to. But if I could just put to you specifically, Bert Samuels, the allegations that we're dealing with here include attempts to influence judicial opinions. Can the public simply dismiss that as an internal disagreement when the allegation is coming from judges themselves? That to me seems to be very, very serious and something that should not just be dismissed out of hand. Bert Samuels.
I'm not dismissing it. I'm saying that the president's side has not been told. That's the first thing. And the president's side should be discussed within the group of the judges. And my suggestion is there should be a discussion about the issue. At the end of it, there should be a vote of confidence or non-confidence in the president, and let it repair itself in that way. This is not, the business of the court is never something the business of the market or the business of the streets. Let them resolve their issues within their group. In fact, one of the persons who commented in the email said they would not like this to go outside. It was said by one of the judges. Let us be careful that it does not go outside. So many differences matter in marriages, in school boards, in cabinet, in the legislature, in political parties, and people resolve their issues and move on. In cricket, some people don't like the captain, they don't want to play with that captain. It's so normal and natural. Come on, let's get real. We're adults.
Is there a space in your mind, Bert Samuels, where judges and a court, a regional court like the CCJ, should be held accountable by the people it serves, that they now deserve an explanation as to what is happening?
I agree with you. The court belongs to the people. The court belongs to the people, and in the final analysis, it will be judged by the people. But listen, not every hiccup, not every misstep belongs to us debating and say we should throw the baby out with the bath water. That's exactly what we're doing. And I'm asking us to just be cautious and be careful. The surgery is over. Let's put the baby in the recovery ward and see that if we can resuscitate her because she has value. Thank you.
All right, so Dr. Nadine Spence, to you, it's one of the questions that this entire situation, this ordeal, has really brought to the forefront of the minds of thinking people. How do we hold the courts accountable, judges accountable? You know, the various branches of government, the legislature and the executive can be held to account by the people. How do we hold judges to account in this modern era? How do we hold courts to account, Nadine Spence?
I think one of the things I keep thinking about nowadays as I grow old and older is this idea that we had that the courts was infallible, that the lawyers knew everything and that judges came down somehow from the sky and whatever their judgments came like on the two tablets that Moses took, you know. Look at what is happening in America and the Supreme Court. We are recognizing now, because of the times that we live in, that judges and courts and the system of justice itself they're people by people, and people have their failings and their political opinions, and people can be persuaded to see things in a particular way, and that most of the times people are located in political positions that come about because of how they were brought up or their Christian or other religious values. And so we are recognizing that the usually men, now more and more now we're seeing women in the black robes are real people like me and you. And I mean, my classic look at judicial systems has to do with looking at America now and the Supreme Court and seeing the reality of the vulnerabilities of that system being displayed, and how politics can invariably change the way justice is put forward and is perceived, and coming to the realization that as people coming out of a slavery, a colonial experience, the idea that these institutions were huge and insurmountable and untouched and godlike is not a perspective that we should be comfortable with. That as a people, as much as the politicians are accountable to us, so too is the justice system. So too are our judges. And that we have a responsibility to speak up whenever they do things that we are not satisfied with.
But how, Nadine, Dr. Spence, how are the judges accountable to this? How does the public hold a judge accountable? How does that even happen?
Well, you know, perhaps, well, we have a Chief Justice who is supposed to be the administrator of the system, but perhaps that's one of the things those of us who are more familiar with the system ought to be teaching Jamaicans, so that when you engage the system, you don't engage it with the perspective that the person who is making the decision is infallible and is all-knowing, even if it is.
No, but my question isn't to the infallibility of the judges, you know, or that view that is held by. My question to you is, we know how you hold the legislature and the executive to account. The public holds them to account at the polls. You can be dissatisfied with them and said, look, this far no more for you. But how do you hold that third, let me not call it the third, but that other branch of government, because we're not listing them in order, right? But that other branch of government, which is the judiciary, how do you hold them accountable? Have we created a sacred cow, as it were, that can't be held accountable by the people?
That is our next discussion, you know, because right now, what Bert said is where I want to go, right? Which will perhaps lead us to answering that question, right? Is that the people who run systems of justice, like the courts, are not infallible. They make mistakes. They are human beings who have their own political biases, religious biases, and that because of that, and we're getting to see a little bit behind the screen of what we thought was Moses, Moses would give them a judgment to come down and read ever so often. We are getting to see that we can ask for more. And perhaps I find, to be honest, I find that our judiciary I'm going to say Jamaica because this is the one I'm most familiar with, that we hold lawyers and judges to such a high degree of respect and almost like the untouchables in Jamaica, that they get away with a lot. Yeah.
No, I'd like to say it without interrupting too much. If you look at our judges in the form of jurors, if you pass a jury room and hear when they are deliberating and they're noisy and one is shooting down the other, and at the end of the day they come to a verdict, that's the robust nature of judges, because jurors are judges. And that is part of the system that we allow people. There are people who don't like the jury system. But if you look at jurors who are judges, they have robust discussion, they have dissent, and they're asked to come to a unanimous decision if they can. But that is life. So that's an example of how judges in the form of jurors behave.
Let me hear you on it, Lloyd B. Smith. You were a part of the legislature. You were the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives. We see how we hold those two branches of government accountable. In your mind, in the 21st century, what would that look like? People being able to hold the judiciary to account?
Well, it's a tremendous challenge because, as Nadine pointed out, judges are mortals, and she has been alluding to Moses and the tablets, and perhaps she should complete that story, that narrative, that when Moses came down from the mountain and he threw the tablets down in disgust, because what he then saw was that the people were in a totally different sort of scenario, worshipping, idols. And in a sense, this is what we are now looking at. The fact is that there will always be this human element. And in the very final analysis, what is going to determine the integrity of the CCJ is the extent to which its judgments can stand up to full legal rigor and integrity. And I don't think the court may not necessarily always be right, but we have to reach a point where we recognize that we are a nation of laws, governed by laws, and we have to accept at some point that there has to be this apex, that we all adhere to whatever emanates from that apex in terms of jurisprudence. So I don't think we're going to reach a point where we're going to have judges who are archangels and who will therefore be always right and always correct to the very last detail. But as Bert said, there's usually a tremendous amount of dissension behind the scenes, because usually it is out of dissension that the judges finally come to a consensus. And we see in the case of the Supreme Court in America, for example, where we do have dissenting judges who publicly will dissent, and they will stick to their point of view, but then the majority prevails. And we have to accept that in any democracy, the majority will have to prevail. And so
judicial democracy.
It's going to speak to our level of maturity as a people.
Absolutely.
No one is perfect, neither are our judges.
We have to take a break right here, but of course, as you're hearing there from our panelists, the business model, and using the term business there lightly, already tells us that the judges aren't infallible because there's an appellate system in the Court of Appeal, final appellate court. This is Lead Story Prime. We take our final break this evening. When we come back, where do we go from here to settle this CCJ controversy? Soon come.
Watagwan.
Watagwan.
Datagwan.
Watagwan. Watagwan. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 a.m., 1:30 p.m., and 10 p.m. on CVM TV.
Watch Walking on the Word with Apostle Professor J. Andrew Scott every Sunday morning at 9:30 a.m.
An apostle cause 3 contracts to be released to you. So as of tonight, the realm of the supernatural is active and activated to cause 3 contracts. Pow! 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 In Jesus' name.
The internationally acclaimed On Stage with Winford Williams.
At a new time, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
So much more than entertainment.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. We've been trying to unpack the CCJ scandal that is unfolding via those leaked emails. Bert Samuels is with us, Lloyd B. Smith also, and of course, Dr. Nadine Spence. Before we get to the final question of where do we go from here, gentlemen and lady, I'd love to begin with you, Dr. Spence, on this penultimate question. Should CARICOM get involved in this controversy?
Only if the court is at risk. I don't think it's at risk now. I think a private quarrel has unfortunately been made public. I don't think the courts is unable to settle the conflicts that have arisen. I agree with Bert that some of what we're seeing, some of what we're hearing about, we should not have been out in the public for us to deliberate on. So no, I don't think so. I think as well the courts jealously guard their integrity. So I think that, and remember our justice system, whether it's the CCJ or national justice system, the judicial process, the officers of the court, they usually hold themselves to the rules and hold each other to a rules-based system. So I think where people are walking out of step with what is the established program and procedures, I think they will sort themselves out. I don't think that the court is at risk. I think a lot of what we are hearing now is because in Jamaica the thing has been so politicized that we have a lot of old quarrels are being hashed out in this moment. The conversations around the road to Republic and the PNP's take on it, and the fact that that process failed because the PNP, in a sense, refused to proceed because of its insistence that the CCJ had to be tied to it. I think a lot of those issues are being, a lot of grievances, a lot of people making a point are being displaced on this moment. So I don't think that our response is in Jamaica is reflective of the real situation. I think we just have a lot of unresolved, perhaps from me, as a person who served on the Constitutional Reform Committee, is trauma. We have a lot of unresolved trauma around this issue of the CCJ. And I think that that's what we are seeing, a lot of that national trauma being displaced on this moment where the court finds itself in an uncomfortable situation. I don't think it's that serious for the CARICOM to get involved.
All right, let's go around the table. Let's go where we started this conversation this evening with Bert Samuels. Where do we go from here, Senior Counsel? how do we resolve this issue to ensure that not just that the judges resolve the issue amongst themselves, but the questions that this controversy has left in the minds of many right-thinking Caribbean people, how do we resolve this issue for all involved?
Well, the court is not a playpen of juveniles or little children. These are adults. They must be able to resolve it themselves. I've recommended that they should have a deep discussion about the matter among themselves. And at the end of it, take a vote whether there is confidence in the president or not. The court is not the president. The court is not the judges. The court will remain there when we are gone, when the judges are gone. That institution, to me, and all on the platform agree, is of such great value to Caribbean unity and for self-esteem that we can be judges to, judge our own situation. So important that it must be resolved and we move on and try to make it a 4.5-day wonder rather than even 9 days. And we move on with them settling their issues between themselves. If a new president emerges, then like everything else, the game will go on. If the captain resigns or the captain can't continue with the cricket match, another vice captain is there, and let's move on. But the game must be played, and we must put scores on the board. We have to do that. And this Republican thing where we take the 3 arms of government and King Charles will lose 2 of his arms, but he retains 1 in the form of the Privy Council. You can't have republicanism in part. That's offensive to me. You must have it in whole. Thank you.
Should they, before you go, Bert Samuels, after they've resolved it internally, should the court face the media to make a statement and answer questions?
Definitely. It's out already, and we need to know that it has been settled so we can move on with the business of delivery of justice.
All right. Lloyd B. Smith, over to you. Where do we go from here?
Well, first of all, I would want to say that, to me, I would want to use the expression, mischief thou art afoot, in that clearly the leak would have been deliberately done in order to bring this matter into the public sphere. And as Bert has said, rather than that should have been the case, the gentlemen in their conclave should come together and resolve the issue. And if there's a vote of no confidence against the president, so be it. I don't think CARICOM in any way should interfere with the process because CARICOM in essence is political and ought not therefore to be part of this present scenario. The president himself of the court, after all is said and done, needs to issue a statement. And in fact, one would hope that there could be some kind of press conference once they have resolved the issue, and so as to give everyone a greater sense of assurance that the court is alive and well. We are in a peculiar situation, as I think Dr. Spence may have alluded to, in that in this particular case, which is why I think we in Jamaica are so caught up with it, in that the president of the court is a Jamaican. Perhaps if it was a Barbadian or somebody else, we would have looked askance at the whole matter. So for us, it becomes even more important that the issue should be transparently dealt with, and that in the final analysis, shall we say, justice should prevail, because we cannot afford to have the CCJ besmirched in any way, and it has to be handled delicately. And I would hope that the court coming out of this experience would have re-examined its protocols and established certain guidelines so as to ensure that this does not happen again.
Nadine Spence, we give you the final word. Dr. Spence?
Yes, I am hearing you. I don't have a problem with the Caribbean Court of Justice, I just think Jamaica is implicated in this quarrel too much for us to behave shocked. Right? We have some issues to work out as Jamaicans. The court is fine. The court will right itself, and the people there will do what is necessary. But you see, last week we were quarreling about women quarreling and a girl fight. Why don't the boys get along? See what happens when men fight?
Brass gets champion.
Tell the boys to stop fighting, please. We're tired of it. Why can't men just get along?
Touche,
Why can't men just get along?
Touche,
this is a boy fight.
Touche, Dr. Spence. You were saying something there, Lord B. Smith.
No, I was saying that the elephants are trampling the jungle, you know. But anyway, Nadine, I don't know. We do have cat fights too, you know.
That's what I'm saying. The boys need to just get along. The boys need to get along.
Look, an eminent panel we had lined up for you tonight, and we have to leave you there. We're out of time. But a big thank you to Bert Samuels, attorney at law, for coming on. Lloyd B. Smith, journalist, former speaker of the deputy speaker of the House of Representatives, and of course, public commentator and academic, Dr. Nadine Spence.
And
thanks
don't
to
forget
all
they're
of
fighting about dress as well, right? They're fighting about clothes.
It gets better.
Don't the boys just get along.
Dr. Spence, thank you so much. Thanks to all of you for watching. This has been another edition of Lead Story Prime. I'm Tyrone Reed. Good evening.
Watagwan. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 a.m., 1:30 p.m., and 10 p.m. on CVM TV.
Let's delve deep into the issues. We'll take you beneath the surface.
Greetings and salutations. My name is Orville Higgins, and it's another edition of Fan Central.
Talking to the people at the heart of the top sporting stories. Hear from your favorite sportsmen and women and the administrators who work tirelessly to make it all happen. It's live sports talk.
I've written an entire article.
Yes. Looking at all the major issues every Tuesday at 9 p.m. It's Fan Central.
The internationally acclaimed On Stage with Winfred Williams.
At a new time, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
So much more than entertainment.
I'm me the stylist, no scam and style me.
From the market to the farm to the office, money talk is everywhere. But are you making sense or nonsense? The Bank of Jamaica brings you common sense with BOJ. Real stories, real laughs, and real lessons to help you protect, grow, and manage your money. Mattress savings.
At least my mattress, no charge me to sleep on it.
Partner plan.
Remember last year we needed our payouts early? But Miss Pam gave it to her cousin first.
Or a sketchy loan flyer.
Electrifying deals.
See why making the right financial choices is pure common sense. Brought to you by Bank of Jamaica, empowering every